This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, not limited to, my sidekick. What's poppin', Burke?
I heard there's some dirt on you.
Man, I mean, I'm like Cheddar Bob, man. Any dirt on me, I just shoot myself and say, hey, guys, I did this.
Cheddar Bob. I do feel like we could have just 8-miled ourselves, or maybe already have in the past before Hayley goes on a rampage.
Yeah, we 8-miled ourselves a long time ago. Ain't no worries.
I just want to know what it is, man. I'm sitting here like, well, we're waiting.
I laughed hard at that meme.
Yeah, like what's going on here? Apparently, she was alleging that I was begging people for backing from Airball. My best guess is that she heard that from Airball himself. He's of the impression that I suck dick for buy-ins. But
that is true.
Be that as it may, I only had to send one text to sell out the Airball action, and then I basically let people beg me for small pieces thereafter.
You only had to suck one dick?
Yeah. That's right.
I had all this action.
You said it, not me.
God, did you
Tortoise getting rich these days.
Tortoise coming in hot.
And there's the tortoise dirt. I'm loyal and monogamous.
Ethically non-monogamous.
No, I'm ethically monogamous.
Who does he think you are again? What's that woman's name?
What?
What's the woman that Berkey loves that he thinks you are?
Oh, Nikki Glazer.
Nikki Glazer.
She's nice.
I love it. Brian's not sure what to say. He goes, what? What?
If only he were as funny as Nikki Glazer.
Mm-hmm.
He might
He's
stand
funnier.
a chance.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I'm not funnier.
Yes, you are.
She's pretty funny.
You're funny.
I'm funny, but you know,
He's definitely not as into butt stuff
she's
as
a professional comedian and very, very good at it. So it's a high bar to.
I mean, for a professional comedian, don't you just have to like call yourself a professional comedian? Like
No,
the
it's
poker
not like
player?
no. I don't. I
What
don't
dirt do you think
so.
Hayley has on you? You guys are like besties.
I mean, I don't know, man.
It's all public stuff. You lost the challenge against Perkins.
Look, buddy. I was literally trying to. I was
Berkey's
cleaning
girl.
my room yesterday. I was nesting, and
That's what pregnant women do.
yeah, it is. And I just get this like storm of stuff. And Connor goes like, "You have to look at this." I'm like, "Dude, let me clean my room." I move things around. My desk was on one side of the room, now it's on the other side of the room.
It's cathartic.
My bed was on one side of the room, now it's on the other. I cleaned up all the wires from under my bed, and all I have to see is people just yelling at each other. And all I hear in the kitchen is you guys hysterically laughing.
Oh yeah, we were listening to the space.
And I was just like, it was a part of me that's like, man, I want to listen and I want to be part. I want to be with the team. But I'm like, you know what?
It's better that you weren't. It's mentally it's better for your mental health.
Well, that's what I was
not
saying.
just yours, but anyone.
Sure,
like you have to be an absolute psychopath to listen to these spaces.
Yeah, so that's why.
No offense to the spaces.
So everybody's.
Shout out to
I
Mark.
haven't listened to one since
Yeah.
I think since you beat Airball.
Yeah, so you're mentally sane.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man Coco and the lot, Snoop Dogg and everybody doing good work out there. You have to be an insane person to listen in.
Things are going on,
Sure.
and it's just like I'm getting this bombardment. I'm like, I'm just cleaning my room.
I'm just trying to nest.
I'm just cleaning, man. Let me clean. I had a great day yesterday. I cleaned so much. I went to the gym, did the podcast, did some poker stuff. I'm doing my job.
Who can we mute in today's chat? I mean, you know, we got to keep this ball rolling. You know, like I'm here for the clicks. Daddy does like his clicks.
Daddy loves his clicks.
Is that what someone's?
Shout out to Ace Holes Pod.
The Ace Holes Pod.
Okay. I need to. I hate when I don't know a reference to something you guys do. It really makes me feel like old.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it shouldn't make you feel old. It should make you feel young. We're old.
No. But but it's a new thing, you know.
I'm apparently 45.
Maybe it just makes you feel out of the loop.
It makes you feel out of the loop. It makes you feel out of the loop. It also makes me feel like I'm not with the times.
Yeah.
You know, because like
we'll
you
get
got-
with the times, buddy.
Yeah. Listen
just
here, pal.
muted-
Listen here, pal.
Connor, just mute everyone in the chat.
I just muted Caitlin.
See ya.
Just mute everybody and see what kind of mutiny we can create.
Yeah, mutiny.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what bomb is going to drop. I'm very excited for it. I'm sure we'll do an episode on it. It seems like something worth talking about. But I personally am very confident that I don't have anything to hide that Hayley could trash me over. Now it does sound like she's pretty good at making shit up, because this whole I opened as minus 185 on the betting line as far as the heads up match against Airball. You think people weren't begging me to get fucking even money?
Right. It's a logical inconsistency.
Right.
It's like, hey, this thing says this. I'm going to give you an even better price.
Yeah,
but I'm going to beg you for it.
You think I didn't have like my phone blowing up with people who were like, can I buy at face when you are almost a 2-to-1 favorite?
Yeah.
I mean, the best part about all of this whole like that kind of claim or statement or like just being in that way is you have receipts of this.
It's the fastest way to discredit yourself. Honestly,
Math
it's just
isn't real.
like it's just like the fastest way to be the person who cried wolf whenever you're just like, I know for a fact that this guy, and also like, what are you even trying to shame? That like I needed backing for a multi-million-dollar match? Like I openly said I sold for it. What are we talking about here?
The best text message I got, which I got like hundreds, was better apologize, Connie. She's going to tell everyone what markup you sell at publicly.
That she bought a piece of. She was in the spaces going, no, I bought him at 1.4. But like, that's just egregious. It's like, but yeah, it probably is. The easiest way to make them sell for cheaper is to stop fucking buying.
I also didn't
Stop
sell at
the cat.
1.4.
Yeah, I've only seen.
I
I
also
think I've
never
seen
saw
1
that.
point. I think you've seen you max out about 1.2.
1.25.
1.25. Yeah.
1.2 is my normal, but
Normal,
like
right.
I think I might have sold something at 1.3.
rate.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It was at 1.8, but we won't talk about that. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm starting rumors.
Shit, I'm trying to get 1.8. Where
Right, yeah.
I'm trying to start rumors here.
Sounds like you got to suck a dick for that.
We're not above anything here at the Only Friends podcast.
And we don't shame either. Hey.
That's right. No judgment. You,
Fuck, that
you go
reminds
out there
me.
and get
Oh
yours.
my god, that reminds me. I need to buy the shirt. I need to get the tank top that Lindsay and Danielle made. It's like I just sucked a dick for a buy-in.
You know what?
I need that.
Shout out to Lindsay and oh my god, why am I forgetting? Danielle. Yeah. Shout out to them for their merch line. I wanted to buy one. I was gonna buy one because I think it's like funny.
It is funny.
And also like the timing of it was really great because Airball kept saying that about me. But
Topical, niche, in your era.
the design needs work. Like I looked at the hoodie and I was just like, I won't wear that.
Right, like if it
I'm just
looked
not gonna
like
wear
if you just
that.
thought it was more like aesthetically pleasing to wear out.
If it were like, you know what would be funny or what I would made me instantly buy is if it were one of like those postcard memes, you know, like the old school like educational memes where it's a cartoon guy like talking to a woman or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Do you have any idea? They're usually like colored like green.
I see what you. Yeah,
with
yeah.
like, Guapo, can you help me out here?
No, don't you dare!
right
Don't you dare! He messed me up yesterday. Don't do it. Don't help him. You're on this island.
Educational meme isn't bringing back a lot, but I'm trying.
But you know, I don't know how else to describe them. They're usually like one solid monotone color, like green.
It's like the Bad Luck Brian type shit.
I don't know what that
Sounds
is.
like a Dare shirt.
No.
Tear shirt.
It'll usually be like.
That's a good shirt too.
You know what? Let me see if I can find.
Yeah,
what
help
I'm
yourself
talking
here,
about.
buddy.
I really dug a grave here.
I would, yeah.
Keep digging.
I'm trying to help you, Burke, but I have no idea
Don't
what you're
help
talking
him.
about either.
Don't help him. You know what I found
We should
great
just be
yesterday?
silent. Actually, we should just not speak.
I saw a text that Landon just told somebody he was busy, right? So I turned the corner in his room, and I just see him on the floor texting.
I was busy.
Busy. Yeah, he's busy texting.
I was busy texting. I took a break from cleaning. My room looks great though. Don't lie.
I know. No. Other than your twin-size bed looks great.
I need to get a new bed. It's crazy. Yeah, I know it's brutal, but it's fine.
How do you have such a small bed?
I curl.
Man,
I'm a curler.
You have to. You're 8 feet tall.
Go get yourself a California king.
Everybody
man.
wants to be 6'5". Little do you know my struggles.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna find this.
You're like
God,
you're
my
like Michael
dyslexia.
Scott
Watching
on
you
the little
search
edge
right
of the
You're
bed.
dead, Berg. Just leave it alone.
I'm dead.
Berg, just leave it
Look, he
alone.
fits perfectly.
I'm dead.
Just join our conversation over
Come on,
here.
Matt. Keep going. Yeah, what you got, Matt? Show me this educational meme. I would love to see
I
it.
forgot Burke was still here.
The sick thing is like it's a template that there's probably been, I don't know, 1,000 different
As
ones
soon
of.
as I see it, I'm gonna be like,
But I can't remember a single one of them to just be like, oh yeah, it was that one.
Right.
Shout out to all our members for 10 months. Guy from Montana says, remember, you have a month super chats if you are a nerd and brainiac.
Hey.
Ryan Braun goes and says, Berkey, you made me horny on Main Street. The kid in the towel.
Dude, some things you're just never gonna get over. But like, I guess, yeah. Here comes the running bit.
You know, I think
Need a sticker for it. In
I
the
think
chat.
the towel bit's finally over. I think it finally ran its course.
It's over.
I haven't seen anybody put the whatchamacallit.
You haven't won a tournament in a while.
That part's also true.
Yeah. You haven't
taken any towel picks either recently.
No.
No updated towel picks.
There's no towel these days, buddy.
No towel picks?
What the fuck? What's wrong with him?
Just fucking around.
He's horny on Maine.
I'm not. No, can't say that anymore. But you know what? No, stop.
He's in his menace phase.
Let me address the audience. He started this yesterday. He knew what he was doing because he knows when I fluster.
Yesterday was good.
He knows when I fluster, I try to find my sentences mid-yell.
Yeah.
I found out.
You knew that's what I was gonna. That was a chance of that happening.
Knew that I had no intentions of saying anything that would put you in a compromising position, but that you don't trust me.
Yep,
it's not that I don't trust you. I see the way you cackle when you leave the screen.
I knew I had to wait until I got home to figure out what it was, and let me tell you, it was hilarious.
What?
We talked about it afterwards.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I trust you.
I trust you.
I missed it. What was it?
I love you guys. Not on air. Not on air.
Yeah, you're right. You did miss it. This is what happens whenever you leave. You go home to the wife, and we go home to the jokes.
Yeah, your fun dies after this podcast. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Little do you know, I got an episode of Love Island waiting for me every time I go home. That shows a goddamn commitment. Let me tell you, there's like 87 episodes per season.
We all just sit in the fucking kitchen and just listen to Space.
Bro, that was unhinged.
I can't wait till Pigtails gets here because they watch Love Island. At least I can have somebody to talk to about it.
They were laughing so hard in the kitchen, you have no idea. And
it was so unhinged. It's like listening to Jerry Springer in 2023. It's wild. Shout out to my man Jersey Joe hitting us with the $20 super chat.
Thank you, Joe.
You know, my guy is loyal as fuck. I appreciate you out there.
Love
but yeah,
Jersey
no,
Joe.
it was wild because like you're listening in and they're all there for it, man. They're just there for the bang bangs. You know what I mean? Like nothing. No offense again to the Spaces, but like nothing is really original. It's all a derivative of things that caught on somewhere along, like the Joey streams and whatever. Actually, I take that back. The Hatchet bit that they run is original. They were calling her Hatchet Haley.
Well, they'd say hatchet for like throwing like
like
shit
throwing
at people.
daggers. Yeah.
So you can't just read half of fucking JJ's Jersey Joe's thing. He has a question.
I don't know. Blue White. I didn't know what he meant.
He said, "Come
who
clean."
blew? Oh, I missed that. I misread it. My bad.
So good. Oh man,
that's neither here nor there, and very private matter. All right, let's.
Some things are behind closed doors.
Let's talk a little bit of poker here. We saw a pretty interesting hand. Actually, it was semi-interesting. It was interesting enough for Landon to send a screenshot to the group chat and say,
I did do that, yeah.
And say, what the fuck?
Yeah, I did.
You're on Matusow's side.
He did.
No, I'm on the side of it seems close.
That's fine. Look, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner here.
Stop
I'm just saying.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that you're going to take the side of Matusow in this debate.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise,
someone's got to be his lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, you did right.
Why? No.
This jam is suspect.
Relax. Wait a minute. So he wants to have this guy.
Why is he staring at the camera?
Because this guy wants to have a conversation and put me on the losing side of it.
Oh, whoa. It's up for debate. Like, yeah, of course we know the solver jams in this spot 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But that's, you can make a case for why it's not a jam, I think.
You can make a case.
I'll tell you what.
You can make a case if you're not playing jungle.
I'll tell you what. I'll take the side of Matusow since you're so flustered. You can have Daniel's side.
There you go.
As a child of the sim.
Okay.
Even though you led with, I think this jam stinks.
Suspect.
I said No, wait, hold on here. This is why I don't trust you. You're using big words that I don't mean it. Suspect and stinks are different. Suspect says I'm not sure. Stink says I know it's bad. Don't do this.
It's a bit, man.
You're a bit.
Put your stinks up in the chat. Let's go. Put your stakes up in the
It
chat.
falls back on me though.
Okay, but like.
But not okay. Say you understand.
I understand,
Thank
but
you.
everybody listening knows I'm running a bit.
The people that listen a lot, the people that just see it and go, oh, like he thinks Mariano stinks because he jams aces with a heart, and then I get talked to by his friends.
Landon didn't actually say it stinks.
Thank you.
It's a bit.
I get talked to by his friends.
I get talked. I get all these messages like,
Landon, it's a bit out of line.
yeah, it is.
Tell him, Amanda, you should be talking like other players about other players like that.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
This is gaslighting.
Yeah, it's really fucked up, Landon.
Yeah, but like, see, but how am I supposed to trust you?
By not getting so animated, first of all.
Yeah, that's true.
And
But
secondly,
you know that I would do this.
what?
I would get animated.
Yeah, kind of. That's why the bit's funny. Do I really have to explain how the show works to you?
It's not funny to me, man. You hurt me.
You and Melissa do it to me all the fucking time. We ran that lighting
That's
bit.
because you are the ice miser.
We ran that lighting bit for 45 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, because that's insane.
I was sitting here in the dark.
I love
I'm the
that.
goddamn host, aka sidekick.
Sidekick.
You also
Relax.
didn't turn on your own lamp.
I didn't realize it was off. I wasn't placing blame. I was just acknowledging that I was sitting in the dark. And suddenly I became a diva.
Fucking lamp boy.
Fucking diva.
Okay. So now that,
Bill
we're all,
loves lamp.
now that we're all on the same page, you can argue the side of Negreanu. I will make a case for what I think.
Okay.
It's not going to be a strong case, but I'm going to make a case for what I think Mikey is trying to get across.
Well,
Okay.
Okay.
So let's run down the hand really quickly without actually playing the whole thing because it's long. They're playing 2-4-8. And I believe the effective stacks were Jungle Man stack, which was like 142k. So roughly 175 blinds. I think that's what I ran it for. Sorry. 172 and a half blinds actually after the raise in 3-bet. So about 180 effective to begin. Jungle opens the hijack with King Queen of Hearts. Very, very good hand. And Mariano, in typical Mariano fashion, has aces.
A better hand.
A better hand. He had aces most big pots that I see him play, and it's a really sharp strategy
So I was gonna
to
say,
have.
it sounds like he's doing something right.
Yeah, that's the right approach for
That's
sure.
my style.
So he 3-bets aces with the ace of hearts, and Jungle proceeds through a call. Sizings are a little largish, but standard for live as far as I'm concerned. So I think Jungle opened pretty big. He opened 2,800 at 800 big blind, and Mariano 3-bet to roughly 8,500.
I think it
yeah,
was.
I think so too. And this is going to be a byproduct of the big blind ante, there being a straddle, it being live, like whatever. I'm just noting the Jungle size is a little bit on the larger side, and Mariano's 3-bet is probably pretty standard given the opening size. Yeah. So we see a flop of Queen of Clubs, Jack of Hearts, 4 of Hearts, and a check, 68% bet call. I'm just going to run through the entire hand, and then we can go through the analysis after the fact.
Yeah.
Turn is Deuce of Spades, Stone Brick, obviously. Check, 88%, I believe.
Yeah, close to pot, yeah.
Yeah, 87% maybe. Call. And then, oh no. Okay, good. So yeah, 89% on the turn. Call. River, 8 of Hearts, completing 9-10 and a flush. Jungle Man checks. And Mariano rips for 69% pot, all in.
Nice.
Jungle calls, second nuts, sad Mariano. So the question then becomes, is the river a punt? And
I had the blocker.
this was more debatable than I would have expected it to be, but from the outside looking in, I think Matusow's point of view represents a big subsection of viewers, beginners, intermediate players.
Like vast majority.
Yes, I would say outside of those who are extremely well studied, Matusow's point of view is the popular opinion that this is not a jam with aces.
Yeah.
And I think that he's actually right in most instances for most players. But the reason why, for most players, in my opinion, this is not a jam is because they're not bluffing enough.
Correct.
Right? So in order to jam this thinly for value, you need to be able to have your opponent call you with appropriate bluff catchers. And appropriate bluff catchers in this instance are going to be a queen,
ace queen,
as well as Jack X. Jack X, like almost pure calls in this instance.
like ace jack.
Ace Jack, King Jack suited type of hands.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we can get to the sizing scheme and stuff like that, but basically, like, you just don't get to the river with many hands as played.
Wow, that's strong. Did you just call it king jack, no suit?
Yeah, because there's so much. We'll get into it, but basically, there's so much ace of heart available.
Sure.
So, you know, you have to expect your opponent to be calling with what somebody like Matusow would deem to be extremely weak holdings.
Correct.
Matusow would never make it to the river with a jack.
No.
Never.
You're going to make it to the turn with a jack.
Yes, he would. Most people.
Jesus.
It's fucking with you.
Well,
Just
that's
check
not.
fold middle pair.
That's not funny.
That's funny, though.
Make it more obvious.
I got the human laugh track. You know, it's hard to know when something's funny
I
or
get
not.
it. I get it.
Look at him.
Most people, I think, would be similar to Mike, where when they get to the river, they only have flushes and queen X.
Right.
I don't even think most people make it to the river with sets.
Because they find a way to put money in.
When there's only 70% pot back, I think they just check jam turns so often with their made hands that in jungle shoes, they just don't land with enough calls.
Yeah. It'll check call flop, check jam turn, or check raise flop, bet
Right.
turn. Like, you're going to construct your hand in a way that protects the most.
Right. So they only get to river with like scared hands and then now improved draws.
Yeah. Either
Draws
nothing or 5-card hands.
Draws that
Yes.
can't win at showdown.
Well, not nothing being like ace queen. Right. But that's a scared hand because you lose the kings, you lose the aces.
Well, the issue is like when you look at a hand like ace queen and then think that it's not worth anything.
Yeah. But I mean, but when you construct that way, it kind of isn't worth anything.
Well, it becomes the bottom.
Well, actually, it kind of becomes worth everything depending on the frequencies of the opponent betting.
Well, if you think that you're only going to show up with flushes or like call it ace queen or king queen, now the bottom of your range becomes king queen ace queen.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I
I
mean?
agree with you.
So now it becomes like you in your mind think, oh, I can have like
And facing jam bottom folds.
correct.
Which is why in position can't jam thin for value because the only value you extract from is bottom.
Right.
Right. So it becomes this weird wits and wager type of game. And this is how we iterated in the past before we had software.
Just how poker is now, even in most cases.
To a lot of degree, yeah. Like there are a lot of situations I think that people who are very unstudied don't recognize the power of second or third pair as opposed to a top pair holding that's really weak.
Right. Good side card, bad side card.
Yeah.
It's important.
Exactly. So, you know, this kind of contradicts maybe a bit of what we were speaking about with blockers being overemphasized to the general populace.
This is part of the argument for why they're important.
Right. It is the argument for why it's important because as we'll see with this hand, on the river, Mariano's decisions are going to be strictly suit based.
Yes.
But it does further back the argument that I was making of it's impossible to get to the point of making decisions that are that razor thin without knowing everything else about theory first.
Right.
Yes. Like you need to know that aces with a heart can jam and aces without can't.
And in order to, right, but even to get to that point, you have to be able to construct a betting range over 3 streets based upon game theory principles, right?
Right, like
you have
choosing
to,
sizes.
Yeah, you have to choose correct sizes. You have to choose some level of balance in your frequencies. You have to have enough range or enough candidates within your range that can set you up for future street bluffs, have coverage on all runouts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of this is predicated upon actually having some theoretical understanding of how the game and ranges flow way, way, way before we get to, like I was saying, a drilled down decision of I'm in this exact point with this exact hand. Do my suits allow me to go for value?
Right. I think people see poker in 2 ways. Like the vast majority is the what is my hand now? What does it do for this street? And like how do I either like protect or get what I need to happen?
What's the incentive of this exact holding?
Versus the other side of it of trying to see the river from pre-flop. Where it's like, how does my strategy change? How does my SPR change? How does my bet sizes change?
Yeah.
After this flop comes, how do these different turn and river distributions change my strategy? And how am I supposed to adjust? And how are they going to adjust?
Yeah, I refer to this a lot as having vision. And I think that it's a
good
really
word. It's a good term for it.
I think it's a really critical way of looking at the game. Like, I think no one's really born with vision when it comes to being able to play this game.
No.
And nobody can really intuit vision over future streets or over the vastness of the game tree. That truly only comes from study and theoretical work.
Well, like in the sense of just actual understanding, I would take the player that if someone had perfect vision over each opponent they played of how they play the strategy versus a solve. Right? Because solve is imperfect and vision would be perfect.
That comes with a little bit of the clairvoyance that you can garner live, I think. Right? Like the deductive reasoning that I used yesterday to get stacks in when I have a card exposed from pre-flop on is a byproduct of just being able to kind of logically deduce what I think he is doing with the top and the bottom of his range and and how disaligned the incentives are.
Yeah, you're not playing no limit hold'em. You're playing I have this hand with a card shown and you're going to do something with the hands that you have.
Right, and it's largely predicated
it's not
on
no limit.
Well, it's largely predicated on having clairvoyance because of what I saw pre-flop, where I saw that he had an auto fold versus the 4.
Right.
And then chose to pull it back.
Yeah, this just takes a whole chunk of his
range.
Yeah,
so now it's like the top is gone, and I'm only dealing with middle and bottom of range.
Yeah.
And I just basically need to find the line of like where do the incentives align that they both want to be all in.
Yeah.
And when I look at like the bottom of his value range that would want to shove for protection, it's like, oh, well, I have like 35 to 40% equity against that region.
It makes me kind of have a like basic inclination to think that people that are visual learners will learn poker much faster than auditory because of all the software we have now. Because like in my brain, I can literally see the graphs move and change when you pick different sizes. You see like different combos go to pure blue, which would be fold, or like green, which is call, and some are like orange for raise.
Right.
But when you pick different options, you see if you can visualize how it changes, it helps you construct your strategy, or at least have the bounds to the baseline.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if auditory is necessarily at a hindrance. So I'm a visual and auditory learner. Like those two go hand in hand for me. So when you say things, I can visualize them. Like that's the way that I think. If I close my eyes, I see cards. Where there are a lot of people who just aren't like that.
Really?
Yeah. So I think like kinesthetic learners probably struggle a lot prior to having GTO trainers. I think GTO trainers for kinesthetic learners are probably worth a lot. But like they're not worth very much to me. Because for me, I just do well with visuals and or explanation. So like if I pull up a solve and you walk me through said solve, that is worth 1,000 hands played on a trainer, in my opinion. For someone like me, the way that I learn. And obviously like read-write learners are really fucked.
Man, I feel like when it comes to, read-write, I mean, GG.
The best thing you can do is like take copious amounts of notes
or like read a book, but like there's not much good books. Like
it's almost impossible to distill this down to a book. I think like Jonda and Acevedo did great jobs with what they wrote in Modern Poker Theory and
Mathematics of Poker.
No, that was Bill Chen. Modern Poker Theory was Acevedo.
Applications.
Yeah, that was Jonda. I think they did great jobs, but the problem is that it's very difficult. It's difficult to convert math into language, and due to that barrier, visuals are the only thing that really are able to become a bridge between the two.
I feel like when it comes to kinesthetic learning as a whole, it seems like, is it not fun for most people to like actively learn
Yeah, but they just do it through play, and the problem is like you're iterating things that aren't very refined.
Some people can't, like, that's just not the way that they learn.
No, it is. It's where I think it's what the majority of people do to learn. But you end up as like a Matusow type, where you're so clouded by your observational bias that you've never really learned anything important.
Right. It's funny because if you put like call it Mike's kinesthetic now, but give him solver info, Mike would take the exact hard stance.
Yes, I would think so.
Yeah.
And those players are probably like pretty sharp on the fringes when it comes to being able to make heavy deviations based off of what they've seen.
Yeah.
But it's really critical to get them the theoretical baseline first. Yeah. Otherwise, you take this hard stance of like, this river is never a bet. In which case, like, if you're not betting that river with aces and the ace of hearts for someone like me, you are just leaving so much money on the table.
Right.
Because I'm probably just calling a little bit too often. Anytime that I have like
king, queen, no
black,
heart.
ace, jack, or king, queen, one heart.
Well, the importance is having that baseline as a whole, because when, in a sense, like when people take the stance of you can't bet this, you're saying, I know for a fact this cannot be a good idea. So now you're trying to play God in this instance of you know what is and isn't.
Right.
Where when you look at a solver instance, it's like, okay, you know the baseline is that it wins this much if they're playing appropriately. And
Well, let's take a look at that because I do think that, these outputs are a little bit surprising. So the first thing I want to run through is what actually happens at equilibrium if Mariano had chosen the incentivized sizes.
Sure.
And I'm just going to note a couple of things that I think are important because they changed pretty drastically based off the sizing scheme that he chose. Even though his sizing scheme is fine, it's just not optimal.
Sure.
So obviously Jungle Man's going to play pure check, and we can see that when given the option, I gave him 3 bet size options. It all just culminated down to quarter.
Yeah.
So it is a range bet spot. You can see that every hand that he has in range is just going to choose to bet here and choose to bet small. When he bets small, we can see that Jungle Man's going to play 18% raise. But comparatively speaking, when he chooses
Well done.
when he chooses the large size, we can see the Jungle only plays 14% raise, and now King Queen of Hearts is 0%. Whereas when we're at regular equilibrium, we can see the King Queen of Hearts is the preferred candidate to be check raising out of the King Queen.
So if
category.
he would have came with a quarter, we would have seen Jungle probably find the check raise a lot more often.
Like a third of the time.
Yeah.
But he has a pure call versus the larger size.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Big bets, big hand, big bet,
Yeah.
scary, like fear,
Yeah,
like
right.
fucking
Yeah.
alarm
Yeah,
bells. But it's like I can make a 5-card hand.
Yeah, it's the 3-bet pot.
On top of the big sizing pre.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jungle opened big.
Yeah,
so
I'm
like,
just saying,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, these are 200 big blind ranges with
Like-
big blind ante.
Facing B75 and you have like Queen 10 no backdoor, like you're kind of like, whoa.
You're not happy.
You're not happy in practice.
You're not
that's
happy
for sure.
because, honestly,
What, you
like,
gonna see Ace 4, Ace 5?
yeah, I mean, you can see
I don't know. Are we playing against you?
that it actually plays more aggressively versus the big bet, and that makes a lot of sense to me because the 10 is no good, right? So you're just like trying to put Ace King in a really shitty spot. So you can see that like Queen 10 without hearts
Check raises?
check raises a third of the time.
Oh.
Whenever
Wait, is that-
this is
against-
when he comes with the big bet.
the
That's
big
the big
size.
size.
Yeah.
Dude, like but here, like ready step 1. Like
Same with Jack 10.
Let's start step 1. Okay, let's see who in the pool is check raising Jack 10 versus big bet.
Nobody.
It's just,
Nobody. But I mean,
Like how do we like?
but we understand why this is happening, right? It's because of the 10 sidecar.
I get that.
Like you're winning now, and it's really difficult to get the showdown, and the only hand that you're really beating is Ace King.
Yeah.
I get that. At the
Right.
same time, in a practical standpoint, when you play this node out, it does not go the way you want it to go.
No, of course. Like even versus small
it goes
size,
the opposite way.
Yeah, even versus small size, these hands check raise some, but the difference is it's much more particular, right? So versus small size, only Queen 10 of Hearts check raises really at any frequency, and only Jack 10 of Clubs check raises at any frequency,
It's
and
just-
it's due to their flush capacity.
Sorry, it's just because it doesn't want to fold, but it also doesn't really want to continue. It's just doesn't
Exactly.
feel correct. It's very indifferent.
Wait
right?
a minute, but
Like,
isn't that just betting to see where you're at?
in a way, kind of.
You mean raising to see where you're at? Well, you know where you're at. It's denial, and the other byproduct of that is because
You're in the fucking blender.
well, it is.
It is no, it is denial.
You're raising to deny because the hands that beat you play call.
Yeah.
You're right.
They just bluff catch you,
Well,
right? So these become now your bluffs for future streets. They're just high equity bluffs.
Yeah.
Well, they're high.
Bluffs, quote unquote.
Well, just yeah. I mean, you're just having these to protect yourself on certain turn distributions.
Correct.
Right. The turn comes a 9.
Right.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Turn
yeah.
comes a deuce. Okay, we check.
Right.
I was about to ask that next question.
So as played,
Welcome to
obviously, the deuce of spades rolls off on the turn, and this is a very bad card for Jungle's range
Mamma mia.
because it's a stone brick. So this is a very polarizing card, right?
You're terrified.
You as Jungle are the linear range that is fully positioned into bluff catching. Sure, you still retain some sets and some strong hands like that will protect you on these types of bricks, but the board texture hasn't changed, which means when you face bet, it's going to be incredibly large. And you can see that this is having faced the small C bet. You can see that the only size that is chosen here is 2E. So that's geometric sizing where we're going to bet the same size over 2 streets to be all in on the river. And this is happening with about 60% of range for Mariano. So this is pretty much all driven by the top of range, which includes Ace King. So even though Ace King isn't a value hand, you can see that it nearly purely chooses the 2E sides. The only exception to that being Ace King of Clubs. Reason being that you kind of block his auto folds with his king 10
Oh, his
peels
backdoors.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to have you basically want to give him the king of clubs. You want jungle to have like king 9 of clubs type of hands.
Right. Because those are the ones that have to peel and then fold.
Yes, exactly. And then you can see like
Love
he protects his range a lot with like top pairs, not nut kickers. So like king queen starts to check back at a really high frequency, both off and suited. You can see that most of his jack X is playing check back, with the exception of queen jack, which is top 2. And then even some of his stronger draws like king 10, ace 10 are going to be doing a fair amount of checking, particularly when they have no blocks to flush cards. So king 10 of spades, king 10 of diamonds, they're going to play high degree of check. Reason being is that you don't want to bet king 10 of diamonds and have 10 9 of hearts jam on you. That's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Disaster FC.
Disaster FC. So
this is how Patrick and I talk about hands. Like we'll talk about things and it'll just be like big error, big error.
So facing large size, obviously jungle is going to play nearly pure call. You can see that he does do a little bit of jamming. That's mostly going to be coming from sets as well as king 10. I guess 9 10 of hearts actually does a lot of raising, not all in.
Just click it.
Yeah.
You click call off when they pile.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me because I would think that you would want to have. Well, I guess it's predicated off the fact you're not making mistakes with king 10.
Well,
in the wild, I would expect people to make mistakes with king 10, and I would just want to be ripping 10 9.
Sure.
But I guess it doesn't matter because they're not going to jam king 10 and you're just going to shove river.
Well, I mean, just in like spots like this with like very specific click nodes, I would just rather play like an all in
Or call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fuck with the small.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'll just like, but this is what solvers are for, right? This is what I would subtree this part.
Right.
The database, you can't subtree that.
Correct. Well, this isn't the database. This is Wizard.
Yeah, but can you?
This is the AI. Yeah, I could take that. I could take that out right now.
Oh, good. Wow. Would you look at this? Plug the wizard. No, I mean plug.
It's ruse. Right. So I could just take raise out.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly. I would just do this.
I could just take raise out and leave it call or all in.
Yo, come on! It's just so fast. Look at it.
It's so fast.
Look at it go.
Wow.
And now you see the jams go up a little bit. So now it's up to 6%.
Look how much more clean that looks as a strategy.
Yeah.
Isn't it more visually appealing?
It is. I'm a little surprised that 10 9 of hearts just plays pure call now. I would have thought it would gravitate the other way.
Well, you have to check the king 10 response because the idea of jamming 10 9 is to get king 10 to get out.
Yeah, which is what I would have thought would have happened. Let's check the response.
Take it to the streets.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it's because it's so particular in what king 10s it bets.
Yeah, that's
Right.
why you can't bet the king 10 without
Right.
it.
It's only betting king 10 of hearts.
Right. Well, so like when it comes to like practical application, right? If you think people double king 10 here because they don't know where else to pull bluffs from,
King 10, ace 10 type of hands, you
yeah.
just want to be all in.
king 10, ace 10, and then like they don't have like the high low, like the ace 3 is like a huge one.
Right.
Right. If you don't even have this.
Ace 5. You
Yep.
can see that's betting almost pure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love ace 5. See, look at it.
Run it, baby. Run it.
Look, it did good for you.
It did do good for me. I had to really think my way through that one though. That was a
It's not a hand
head scratcher.
It's not a hand for the faint-hearted.
That
That's
had
right.
nothing to do with ace 5. Everything to do
It
with
had
just
everything
the 5.
to do with ace 5.
It had
I
nothing
turned
and
over
everything at the
5.
same
No, it
time.
just had everything to do with the ace.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Turned over 5.
That's what it's for. You know, maybe you bet, you river ace, you check, win. They get mad at you.
Yeah, so I think like these observations we're making are really important. I think in the wild you get to play a lot more aggressively with your check jams, particularly with the hands that don't have showdown value.
That's assuming you don't check raise flop with the 10-9.
Right, which scary. Pretty fucking scary. I'm pretty sure it's a pure call.
Right, versus the big bet.
If I'm not, well, no, I'm just looking at the small bet node right now.
There's small bet's probably okay.
Oh no,
It's okay.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It plays pure raise. How did we get here?
Because he went big bet on flop.
No, I'm still looking at the small bet node.
Maybe it'll just give it a combo or something. It's not.
Yeah.
It's like not like it's like 95-5, 98-2.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's like if you ever just. But the thing is, like most people aren't going to check raise this in this spot. But
Right.
Most jungle and most people are two different things.
Exactly. That's very true.
That's Daniel Cates. That's
That
the
is
jungle
Daniel
man.
Cates. So the other important thing to note is that when that big bet comes through on the turn, the non-flush open enders fold. So king 10, 10 9, these hands have to start folding.
You have to.
So like when you start looking at the call range, you can see that king 10 of hearts jams. King 10 of diamonds and spades does like a sliver of calling just so that you have coverage on the ace and on the 9, but like very, very, very little. And mostly just starts folding. Same thing with 10 9. Only 10 9 of hearts is a pure continue.
Does ace 5 of hearts bet the turn for imposition?
Does ace what?
Ace 5 of hearts.
Pure. Oh wait, sorry, of hearts?
Yes.
Probably. Yeah, pure.
Pure. Does it call off if it gets jammed on?
I would imagine.
That would be That would be.
I would be surprised if it folded.
It's probably,
Yeah, pure call.
Yeah, it's nasty. Jam King 10 of Hearts, which is good. Just have C Ace 5.
Right. You hate to see it. Okay, so then what happens with the 8 of Hearts? This is again through the standard equilibrium line.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised he doesn't have any
No
leads.
No leads.
Kind of surprised because, like, you think about it, right? If Mariano's range is mostly Ace Queen plus, that bets the turn for value.
Yeah, but you can see that he only has 2 combos of flushes
Yeah, you just don't have enough.
as jungle.
Yeah, exactly. You just
Right.
don't have enough
You just don't get there because you're supposed to be playing like 10-9 of Hearts doesn't exist. You're just supposed to play it aggressively on the flop.
and your Queen X of Hearts just check calls most of the time.
A lot of it does. Well, yes. So specifically, King Queen of Hearts check calls the whole way through. That's the major.
King 10 doesn't though, or Queen 10.
Queen 10 did a little bit more check raising, but it still calls like 66% of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just don't get there with very many flushes,
Yeah, you just have to have a bluff catcher, and like you just don't have that many flushes.
and you don't really have a lot of sets either. And whenever we look
Yeah.
at the breakdown of Mariano's range, he actually still has 7 combos of flushes.
Yeah, I mean that's assuming he has the high-low aces.
Yes, correct.
So that's
Which he should. Yeah, I think he's certainly good enough to be balanced there. So when we look at what the actual strategy is, obviously it's very sensitive to a heart. So these are the critical nodes I want to point out. So aces with a heart, you can see that it mixes between jam, the 1E size.
Man, I love this stupid little reindeer game of like 67.
Right. And then the bet to induce, I guess. I'm not really sure what you're inducing from. I guess like some busted 10-9s.
The idea is you're probably going to want to have some bluffs with bad blocker hands. Like if you look at ace 5, like you have ace 5 of whatever.
Yeah, you have the other ace 5s.
Correct.
And you have ace 5 of hearts at some frequency to bet call off.
Correct.
Same thing with ace 3. You're mixing these. But that's it. It's really just ace 5, ace 3, and ace 7.
It's just doing the stupid little bucket thing where it's like, hey, I have aces or nothing.
Practically speaking, you're probably just going to play jam or check.
Yeah.
And when you look at the candidates, the jam, you can see they're all sensitive to hearts. Kings actually jam wider than just the king of hearts, which kind of surprises me.
Well, it unblocks ace queen.
I understand. And I guess it does come back to the fact that like he just shouldn't have as many flushes as he probably does have. He
Sure.
probably retains more flushes. I'm not even necessarily saying jungle. I'm just saying like the average opponent.
Yeah, pool.
Yeah, probably retains more flushes by the end.
It's so nasty when you think about like having the wits and wagers war with yourself, thinking about like the combos that do and don't exist, because these outputs change drastically if those things don't exist.
Right.
Right. You value bet kings with no heart in like a pool where you think they have more flushes than 2 combos.
Yeah.
You're
wrecked.
You're literally just lighting money into the
And
abyss.
we're going to demonstrate that because whenever we come through the big bet on the flop, the entire river range changes now for jungle. So you can see that queens here are pure betting or pure jamming river for top set, as well as jacks. Whenever we go through the big bet node, I'm just going to skip to the river because like not much really changes.
It's still going to be 2-year check on the turn.
Yeah, so basically at equilibrium, he misses the flop size. It's supposed to be small. He goes large instead. The turn size should always be 2E regardless of what flop size you chose, and 2E would be 78%. He goes a little bit larger than that, obviously recognizing that there's a lot of draws out there and wanting to charge, which then sets up a 69% pot river jam. So everything now changes on the river. Whenever we look at the river node, we actually see jungle having a 3% lead all in, and that's a byproduct of him now having more flushes in range. Yeah. So it still says that he only has 1.8 combos, but what ends up happening is the range is significantly tighter, and it now represents 21.5% of his range as opposed to 13% of his range, 13.5%, right? So he's nearly 1.5x'd or slightly more than 150% x'd the amount of concentration to flushes that his range actually possesses, right? And this was what I was trying to like get across to Mike whenever I was asking him the question of like, what do you do with top set of queens, no heart? And he's like, easy check. And I was like, okay, you understand that it's an easy check because of like the concentration of hands that can call Yeti. Anyway, basically the simple breakdown is jungle is now concentrated to more flushes and more sets than he would have been otherwise, right? Basically because he's going to play a lot less aggressively on the flop versus this large size, and his range is going to narrow more and more street over street. So he just gets to the river with far fewer combinations of hands as a whole.
Yeah, the bigger you bet and get continued versus the stronger the range is.
Right. Mm-hmm. So does that change the threshold of value hands that we can jam on river according to classes? According to hand class, the answer is no. It just makes you have to be more precise.
Sure.
Aces and kings and top set and middle set are all still jams, just at different frequencies than they were before. Now they're indifferent as opposed to being pure.
Right.
Right?
Kind of sneak trick question, but yes.
Yes, of course.
You fuck. I was gonna say it definitely changes things. You would be like, oh, it depends on the suits.
Right. Well, you're right. So the clear answer is it changes the equity threshold necessary to jam, but that equity threshold is very minuscule and basically comes down to the suits that you hold.
Yep.
Right. So
welcome to blocker importance.
So this is where blocker importance does come into play. And
wow, the universe just wants us to do this.
You're not losing that much by checking back here. So Mike isn't making. If Mike took this line and then checked river all the time with aces, like all aces, all kings, and then queens with no heart, he'd be giving up a little bit. But like you know,
here I want to step in and say from the strategic standpoint of how you view the game, it loses you a lot. Because you understand how you think about the macro level ideas.
Well, the reason why it loses you a lot specifically is because you'll just get jammed into a lot on the river.
People will start to play leads on the hearts for sure, and you're probably going to fold range.
Correct.
Because you're not going to bet the flush draws on the turn because you don't want to get jammed on.
Correct. When he gets jammed on the river, he'll fold all these hands that I'm talking about.
He'll fold top set.
Exactly. He'll fold the hands that he wouldn't jam. Correct.
Because they don't win.
Right. Correct.
You're playing a binary game of he has a flush, I don't beat it.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And this is the issue when it comes to like the binarism of when you see poker as like alls or nothings.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there.
So like in this, like it's important because like in this spot, yeah, aces doesn't lose much. But if we know this is how you play, like if we have vision over your strategy that you play like this,
we start shoving wider.
We start shoving wider, and we never call a river bet.
Right.
You lose a ton. And it's not just this hand, it's every hand I ever get to you on the river with.
Yeah, and to be fair, like you are losing EV. Like you're losing between 5 and 15 big blinds per hand when you check back here. So like you're losing a buy-in. No, whatever. You're losing infinite. You're losing infinite by checking back here. But if you're in a pool where they don't call with anything worse than a flush, that stops being true.
Exactly.
Right? So obviously, like, it's one of those give and takes where it's like, if my mistake, if my error of checking here is canceled by an error that they would make by over-folding, then I need to be checking back these hands and just jamming every time I have ace king with a heart.
It's super cool in the sense of thinking about the game where there's some spots you might have king high, right? And you beat all the hands that if you bet they would fold, right? So you can't value bet.
Right.
But at the same time, if you bet and they call you, you lose.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, but you're just using a hand like aces with a heart, where in like your own sort of hand, like your own brain, aces with a heart is a good hand. I want all the money. But if someone doesn't appropriately respond, the way you win is by not betting this hand and by bluffing range.
Right, exactly. Precisely. It's the ace king queen game where we can eliminate a king or a queen depending upon like what the strategy is.
Right. The better the player is, the less ace king queen you can play in some in spots where you would play them differently versus other people. Like
no, the opposite. The worse the player is.
I would, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The better the player is, the more likely you're just in an ace king queen game spot.
Right.
And you have to just polarize your range to an ace or a queen when you jam river.
Okay, so you're saying, well, I'm seeing it from the sense of like the better player will give you less clairvoyance over ace king queen.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on this ace king queen thing?
Ace king queen is just a river spot where there's no more equity to be divided between the two players, and an ace represents the nuts, a queen represents a bluff, and a king represents middle of range or bluff catcher. So effectively, the positioning you attempt to create is that the person with the linear range has all kings in their range, and the person with the polarized range is mostly made up of aces or queens, because the kings will just check back. So when that's the case, and a person jams river and is representing having the nuts or air, it's now on the out of position player or the check caller to decide how much king X he needs to call with.
You can learn more about the ace king queen game at Toy Games, I believe, is the course
Correct,
on
by Andrew Brokus.
Yeah, by Andrew Brokus on softwarewide.io.
That's right. Good job, LaMana.
Fucking LaManager, always there.
Little managers right there. You can also learn more about the ace king queen game at the Academy, which we do still have a few seats available for.
And one's for Ephro, unless he wants to shower you.
Ephro I spoke with today, he's 99% in. He just has to confirm a few things for travel.
Woo, woo.
Yes.
Let's go.
I feel like that 1% might come in when you think, buddy.
Yeah, maybe. So if you want to join Ephro in your learning endeavors,
If you want to meet the big star Ephro.
September 1st to the 3rd. But anyway, what I wanted to demonstrate here is whenever you come through the big bet, the range is obviously narrow a lot on the end, and Mike isn't all that wrong. So it's very suit sensitive now. We can see that queens with no heart is checking back pure. Kings no heart, checking back pure. Aces no heart, checking back pure. Where he's obviously wrong is against any competent opponent, these hands with a heart are a clear value jam.
Right, because you're playing a game in relation to what can they call you with. So you can't bet top set when they don't have sets anymore,
Right.
and all the hands that do call contain a queen.
Right.
You've got 2 queens. There's a queen there.
Right, and more importantly, to further elaborate on that point, if you feel like you can't bet those hands, it means you only feel like you can bet flushes. And if you only feel like you can bet flushes, it means that your value is getting fucked.
Yes.
Because if you have ace 5 of hearts and jam, what are you hoping to get called by? The one lone combo of king queen of hearts?
Well, this is the classic thing that people try to do when they play deep stack live cash is have nuts versus second nuts and think, man, you're so of course I only have nuts versus your second nuts, you know? And
it's a beautiful landscape.
You take some sort of pride in having the nuts and getting called by like the second best hand. It's like, buddy, relax. I get where he's coming from with the cash game suspect of thinking like, okay, $80,000 on the end is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? But you're playing against someone that does not think like
blinds.
that.
It's 100 big blinds.
Yeah,
right.
you're playing jungle. It's 100 big blinds.
Yeah.
You're not playing someone that thinks, oh man, $80,000, like I'm not going to be able to buy like another car. You know?
Right.
You're playing versus a guy that's just going to say, okay, this is 100 big blinds. My hand is a pure call. Or my hand is a pure fold.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see how jungle would have handled the spot with a hand like ace queen and a heart, like ace queen queen of hearts.
I mean, if he folds that hand, I'm gonna like hella freeze over.
Okay, I hear you.
I don't know. I feel like he can fold.
I mean, it probably folds some.
You think ace queen with the queen of hearts folds?
Well, let's see. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess not for 70%. Probably has to pure call.
What the fuck are we calling with?
Okay, maybe like ace queen no heart. I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, of course. Ace queen no hearts like pretty.
Yeah, actually, a lot of ace queen no heart still pure calls.
Ace hearts queen calls.
So ace of diamonds, queen of spades, pure calls. Ace of spades, queen of diamonds, pure calls. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you just really can't fold those hands.
Actually, what's indifferent? Go back. It's indifferent with the queen of hearts for some reason.
Wow. Oh, right.
But man.
Okay, yeah. So my instincts were right.
But like, interesting. Why? Well, got it. You want them to call you with the queen of hearts in their hand. Wait, you want them to be
jamming? Yeah, because you want you don't want them to have queens.
No.
Oh, well, their jam is probably ace queen with the queen of hearts.
Well,
no, because that's just a chop.
You have it, right? What are they jamming with?
Yeah, they don't have any king queen left.
A king queen check to turn a ton, yeah, because you can't play for it all with king queen.
That is kind of curious.
That's what I'm saying. What the fuck's going on here?
Why?
So
and like
you
the turn
study with solvers.
Like this is why, because when you find it, it feels really good. You feel super smart, and B, maybe you learn something new.
Yeah.
Doing it live on stream though, tough.
It's not tough. We just have to look at all the areas where the queen of hearts has some sort of impact.
Because like the queen of hearts doesn't have an impact in this betting range. Maybe that's the reason. Because like queen, like in position never takes like big bet with queen of hearts X plus unless it's ace queen.
No. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never has queen 10 of hearts.
Queen 10 of hearts doesn't go big bet.
It never has king 10 of hearts on the end.
Right.
It has ace queen of hearts, which seems like it would be worthy of blocking.
Oh, wait a minute. Is it because of the queen jack suited jams and you want to block queen jack suited?
No, because the queen of hearts is not the board blocks it.
Yeah.
The jack, right?
It can't
so
be
the
queen of hearts.
Exactly. So a different queen blocks queen jack suited.
Oh, yes.
You're saying queen jack of spades.
See, this is why you do it on stream. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, you found it. Good job.
Found it. He did it.
Yeah, that's precisely why you'd rather have not the queen,
right?
not the queen of hearts.
Queen jack, because like queen jack hearts value combos.
Correct.
You don't block the value combo.
Yeah, and there's only two combos of queen jack suited to begin with, so we can cut it in half by having the queen of spades or queen of diamonds.
Well,
pretty significant.
If you're playing against Mike, it doesn't really matter because
it doesn't matter.
Queen jack of hearts is a pure check.
But like this is coming back to your point of what you were saying about live poker, and especially at deep stack. This isn't all that deep stack. They started sub 200, right? It's just a lot of money. The games I'm playing in, on average, were like 500 big blinds effective, and this
with
is
the card exposed.
Yeah, but this is like truly the beauty because there's a lack of sensitivity to how deep we truly are, and pots just swell very quickly. Specifically because people like to front load their aggression, and what I mean by that is when they have equity, they like to put in bets, right? Specifically like high equity hands. So a lot of these hands that we're saying never make it to the river through the big bet line. are the hands that a lot of the live populace are building their strategy out of.
Yeah.
Like Queen 10 of Hearts, just blast, where it's actually supposed to be utilized to protect range.
Man, you have no idea. Like, I'm you, like pervert audience. I have no idea how many times I yell at you about saying that like you're playing X big blinds with X SPR. Where I'm like, at some point you can't. Like, you're playing a game.
It's very important for me to look at it through that lens, even if my opposition doesn't, because it allows me to recognize how sensitive they're supposed to be versus aggression compared to what's actually taking place.
Right. There's a difference in how you win money, where if you know a certain hand should be indifferent leaning one way versus big bet, but it's always just goes call.
If I study, 3-bet pots where SPR on average is 20, and I see that middle pair versus pot is supposed to do this or that, or is like indifferent to this or that, but I recognize that in the pool, it's leaning very heavily towards always doing this or always doing that. That's a massive amount of EV to gain by being able to create a counter strategy.
I don't think that there's much of a, especially on like, I truly believe that online still has that same sort of these same principles where you can start to cut out the mix, right? Because the more you can cut out the mix, the more you know how to play versus one way or the other.
I think that's true. I think that the difference with online is that you're able to cut out the mix in the sense of pool exploits. So when you data mine, it's very clear to recognize like where people aren't protecting themselves enough.
Yeah. And
you can just naturally exploit all that. So there's just so much free information. But I have to be reliant upon my opponent's moods, my opponent's tendencies, how they view me. I mean, the perception of what they do versus me versus what they do against each other is night and day different. And I know that this is true because I'm doing a lot of work and I play 3 or 4 guys in the pool extremely differently than I play a different subset of like 15. Right?
Man, isn't it such an interesting game where like let's just use like a poker chess comparison where like the best chess player is always going to play perfect chess. Like
or as close to it as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Poker, it's like, oh, like I have extra information of like a problem diagnosis. Here's how I solve it. Like here's how I take advantage of that.
Right.
Where versus someone really good, it's like I can't find a problem here. I need to stick to a baseline.
There's just a big difference between that, right? In chess, the information is available for everybody to see, and there's no hiding it. So if somebody is like clearly exploitable through like an opening weakness or an endgame weakness or something along those lines, they'll get picked apart hard enough and fast enough that they'll recognize their mistake at some point.
Yeah.
Or they'll just disappear, right? Like it's not one of those things where you can covertly take advantage of their weakness without them eventually catching on.
Yeah, every single game gets run through like Stockfish.
Right. In poker, there are many ways to mask what it is that you're doing to take advantage of people, as long as you're willing to be conscientious of it. Like the easiest way to tip somebody off to errors that you believe them to be making is to over 3-bet them. So for instance, there are like 3 or 4 guys in mind that I have in mind that just 100% don't fold the 3-bets ever. And they're just way too wide.
Yeah.
They're flicking it in with like suited 2 gappers, like all kinds of shit, right? And you just know that it's just free money to 3-bet them. But 2 problems occur. Number 1, you encourage them to stop peeling versus 3-bets as wide as they are, or to open tighter. Either one of those corrections are going to be harmful to your EV.
And you have no idea.
Right. And number 2, you're signaling to the rest of the table that this weakness exists. And you're alerting them to the fact that you're taking advantage of it and that they can also take advantage of it by either 4-betting you or by also 3-betting them every time they put money in the pot.
Yes, and there's a difference in the way that people look at the game where some, like, I call it the Rocket Man, right? The Rocket Man will be like, oh, this guy's too wide, this guy's 2-betting too wide, I'm 4-betting you.
Right.
Versus this guy's too wide, this guy's 2-betting too much. I don't want to 4-bet this guy because I'm kind of not sure about that, but I know when this guy does open, I'm going to take advantage by 3-betting too.
Correct.
It's more like the monkey see, monkey do type stuff. But then someone always wants to try to be like, we call it like alpha. Right. Like someone wants to be the table captain. Like, oh, there goes Matt 3-betting again.
Right. And I can do that. So there could be sessions where like I'm in a specific seat where I just recognize that like I have a free 3-bet versus almost anybody who puts money in the pot.
Yeah.
In which case, like I just play no calls that session. And now it just looks like I'm doing this to everybody and nobody really catches on. The target becomes me. I become the one who's putting money in too loosely.
I am the whale.
Yeah. Like you set yourself up to get 4-bet a lot and light. And that becomes a good thing if you're accustomed to navigating 10 SPR spots in 4-bet pots.
Yeah.
You know?
It's weird to kind of, well, when you take advantage, you openly leave yourself to being taken advantage of. It's just a matter of how you choose to do it, right?
You just have to be skillful enough or mindful enough to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's like, I know I'm 3-betting too much, or I know I'm 4-betting too wide.
And you have to be prepared to know what the counter to that is.
Right.
And then also the people who aren't going to counter. You have to be able to look somebody in the face and go like, I know he knows I'm 3-betting too widely and he just won't adjust his strategy.
They don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just going to sit here and wait for kings and then, you know, basically punish the fuck out of me.
Right. It's a very like standard thing to have happen where this is classic, call it like, I don't mean Mike in general, but like the Mike-esque philosophy is like, oh, this guy's too wide, I'm going to get him.
Right.
I'm going to have aces and he's going to have what the fuck ever, and I'm going to stack him. Where in reality, it's like, you should be so much wider than
And
that.
especially in deep stack poker, that's not how you get them.
Well, don't Matusow and like Helmuth do like coaching together and like talk about like spots?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens, right? It just becomes like the like group think.
Right.
Like, oh, this is right. Of course this is right. Why would it not be?
Right.
Right. I'm sure Bill, like if there was a panel or like an arbiter of like who wins, Mike versus D-Nags in this spot. That's why I literally said, are we betting on Pile Solver or Super System?
Right.
Like, in Super System, maybe you check. In Pio, it's like very clearly not.
Right.
Honestly, like that's actually a pretty good example because what happens is, again, to use that term, Mariano front-loaded all of his aggression and is bucketing.
It's a good term.
He's bucketing like the majority of his high equity hands through this big bet line. And what that does is it does put you in a position where you have to make some pretty nitty checks on the end because of how badly the opponent has overly narrowed their range.
Yeah.
Right? Like Jungle just has a clear fold with King Queen a lot of the time when he has no hearts on turn.
Yeah.
Versus like
Nasty. It's a nasty spot.
maybe King Queen's the bad example because through the other line you're facing quarter 110. And that actually puts King Queen in a tougher situation.
Yeah.
But King Queen now represents so much of the top of your range. But like maybe like Jack X type of hands are kind of put into a more difficult spot through the big bet.
Yeah, it just kind of goes back to the point of like why the best players in the field, in most cases, at least especially in cash environments, don't have a tanking red line at the very least.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's break even or close to slightly losing.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the other like people that smash just have positive red lines, right? Because you put people in nodes like this where you are the aggressor and they need to defend. Playing defense is way harder than playing offense.
Yeah, to give you an idea, like 10's pure continues versus quarter. 10's almost pure folds versus 2/3.
Insta-fold.
Right.
How do you win?
Yeah, so like it peels ever so slightly with 10 hearts, 10 of clubs.
Yeah, you peel the suit-specific one to bluff them. You probably have to bluff it later.
It's 100% to bluff.
Yeah.
It's strictly to bluff or to get lucky and make a set that is not going to
Get fucked by his king?
No, you'll get fucked.
And
But
then the
like,
river gets there? No.
it's to not complete a flush or a flush draw.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're choosing club heart.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to peel the 10 of clubs and now be in a situation where you still get outdrawn by like half of his range.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you also want him to have clubs so that he can double barrel type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't want to be blocking these types of candidates.
Well, this is the important part for you as well, right? When you know that these hands act certain ways versus different sizes, that you gain a ton of EV if someone just like starts calling you with 10s with the 10s pure versus big bet, like, oh, like he's gonna fire twice.
Right.
Like I'm gonna wait to see if he fires twice.
Right.
And then like maybe win in like in a check down node. Where if you peel and then you just put in too much money to get barreled on again.
Yeah, the simple answer is that like the big bet here just allows your opponent to play a lot more perfectly. When we look at the big bet line, we can see that like the 4x range starts folding at a really high frequency. So like 5-4, no flush draw, or no backdoor rather, is just a pure fold. Whereas versus quarter, it's a pure continue, no matter what your suits are. Same thing with ace-4. Same thing with, I guess that's going to be largely it. But yeah, I mean, it's really the difference in shaping. I think people have a big misnomer on how the elasticity of ranges work when talking big bet, small bet. I think people have this, like, not to use Mike as an example, but I think like the way his poker brain works, if he starts off with 75% pot, Jack X doesn't call in his poker brain, right? Like it gives a tough decision to middle pair. It gives a tough decision to all. So he basically cleans up all of the middle and bottom of range. Whereas the truth is, the only thing that you really clean up is the bottom of range.
Right. You basically say, I'm going to win the flop. I'm going to win this pot on the flop a ton. And then when you continue, like, you're going to have a pretty good hand.
Yeah. There was a point in that thread that I guess I never actually sent. Oh, no, I did. There was a point where Shamath replied. And Shamath is actually like, he does a fair amount of thinking about the game. I don't know how much like actual rote study he does or rote memorization. But like, I've been at the table where he's kind of openly talked about it a little bit. And like, it's clear that he tries pretty hard.
Because it's fun. Like, it's fun to get good at poker.
Right. And so basically he's kind of exemplifying the point that I'm making when you're newer to this thought of theory and how it works. He says, I don't like the 67 or 75% flop bet. I would choose 130% always. Like in my cash games. And this is just that notion of front loading all of your equity and denying all of the equity to the weaker portions of your opponent's range. It's a big misunderstanding because the implication in your head is that you get to shut out all of this equity. So like in his mind, start B130, clean turn, all in, king, queen of hearts has to fold.
Yep.
Or king, queen of hearts pays me off. Either way, don't care.
Right.
Happy with the results.
Right. Just give me the pot. I don't want to lose the big one.
But there's no more bad hands in there, right?
Exactly. Now you've allowed your opponent to basically play perfectly, and now your ace king gets fucking torched.
Yeah.
Because that's your bluff. And if you take that bet jam line with ace king and then get snapped off by king, queen of hearts, you're sick.
Yeah, it's
you're fucking dead.
Yeah, it's the thought, like, you don't always have aces. That's
I
right.
mean, bold of you to think that ace king is going to bet for Mike on the turn.
Fair. Well, imagine that scenario where you're all in with all your good hands and you're checking back ace king.
I mean, but like this is why you can kind of make sweeping generalizations under the pretense of bias, right?
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't want to play big pots unless they have it. You know that someone's not going to put in big river bets unless they have it. You know that someone's not going to find range bets when they need to, right? There's certain things that you can kind of get pretty quickly over a couple samples. Like you see one showdown, you're like, oh, that's a mix. That's a bet somewhere, right? They missed a bet somewhere. And you can kind of quickly start to make some sort of assumptions, but not view them as law, but use them as guidelines where you don't have that versus the solve.
It's the whole reason we study.
Yeah.
Right?
You study to be better than them.
Correct. It's not
to study. You study to be better than them because you know them better than they know themselves.
It's not a race to memorize every note of the game tree, right? It's a race to stay steps ahead against your opposition and try to shape and mold the strategies as they exist in a vacuum,
right?
To your environment.
Theoretically, the study flattens the curve, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of speaking about it, right? Essentially, the winners, so to speak, the people who are the outliers, the people who set themselves apart, are going to be the ones that give a fair amount of or exchange a fair amount of EV to everyone in their environment to allow them to stay healthy enough to survive, but are just raking them over the coals over the long run.
Yeah, I mean, this is why poker is always going to exist, is not because people are rational, logical thinkers, it's because they have ego.
And like to gamble.
Yeah, of course, as you should.
Yeah.
Like
sometimes you stick it in with one card showing.
Yeah. No, but I feel like you knew you were good.
If I thought there was a 0% chance that ace high was good, I would fold.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. I thought like very clearly like I might be able to win.
I basically estimated that I thought on average I have about 35% equity against his jam range, and that I needed to have the best hand like maybe a quarter of the time. And I don't know if those numbers are anywhere close to correct, I was getting laid like, 2 to 1, maybe slightly less, like
you also get a seat
1.8
back
to
by
1.
Calling.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? Like,
you might get your seat revoked by calling.
Who knows?
Get him out of here.
I just know that like if it comes down to splitting hairs, right? Like if I think it's even remotely close, if I think those estimates are even within 5% of accuracy,
yep,
that's plenty reason enough for me to call.
You like to gamble.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the one who like takes the nitty side of it of like, oh, I just don't want to put in 31,000 dead. Like I don't care if I put in 31,000 mostly dead.
You're drawing
some of
enough
the
flush
time.
draw. You might win.
Yeah, or chop, least. Or like who gives a fuck? Like basically, it just comes down to: am I justified in taking the gambles where I'm not actually taking a bath here? Yeah. Like I just don't want to be losing 15 big blinds,
right,
in this particular spot,
which you simply can't be.
Yeah, it's just hard to be.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah, I'm very happy to gamble. Like I said, I would have put it in pre. Because I'm just he doesn't have aces, so I'm probably like 30%.
Yep.
And if that's the punishment that I get for showing one card where a guy was gonna muck so be it.
And you also have ace 5, and you get to blame me if you lose.
Yeah, exactly. It's for the memes,
Look,
man.
it's
Imagine the cat jam.
It's all for the memes. It always has been. It always will be.
Does it bother you that I've made more money in one hand with ace 5 than you have your entire career?
No, because in that hand, I also made more money in my life than I've made in my entire career.
That's actually pretty funny.
That's true. Next is
so
deuces.
Love
Don't do
deuces.
it. Don't do it.
I have to
No,
find.
but like,
I
no,
gotta
but
find the spot with
it's
deuces.
deuces. It only works
Don't
when
do
like
it,
I'm
man.
bluffing.
you're bluffing, but you river it.
Right.
Dude, yeah, you have to. Yeah,
You
yeah.
have no idea, like max horniness. Fucking horny on main, bro. Fucking triple rifling off deuces on like king 10-6.
He's not lying.
King 10-6, 6 deuce.
Yeah.
I got hard thinking about finding a deuce on the river there.
Yeah. It's true.
That's why you might win.
You know what we talk about these spots in the game. You know what we call them?
What's that?
That's what those spots are. You hear a little on the table. You're like, oh boy. Yeah. I knew I should have folded. I heard the fucking knock.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed this hand breakdown today. We'll try to do a little bit more of this in the future when interesting spots come up. We will be back again tomorrow. This time it actually will be at noon because Landon doesn't have a prior gig, or do you?
When?
Tomorrow. Noon.
No,
Okay.
should be good.
Noon tomorrow Pacific, and then we'll be back Thursday and Friday in the evening at 6 p.m. I believe Matt Hunt is going to join us on Thursday. I'm sure we'll talk a little strategy then. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We have a new episode of On Second Thought up. Ewan McNicholas is making his debut as the host for On Second Thought this week. Head over to solveforwhy.io. Check that out. Free 2-week trial to anybody who wants to sign up. We will see you all tomorrow.
Later, squad.
Peace.